Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Garrard. I'm a student loan consultant, and I'm working with the American Dental Education Association, ADEA. And whether you are someone who's just considering applying to dental school, or maybe you've already applied to dental school and you're waiting to get accepted, or maybe you've already got your acceptance letter and you're trying to decide which school to go to, regardless of where you are in the process, one of the biggest considerations you're going to have, as I hope you know, is how are you going to pay for or finance your dental school education? We have a series of questions we want to go through with you that we think you ought to ask before you actually matriculate into dental school. And again, if you're just considering dental school, these are things you ought to be considering at some point before you start dental school. First of all, the obvious one is, well, how much does it cost? Now, here's where we're going to encourage you to think big picture and not just a year at a time. You apply for financial aid on an annual basis. And so it's understandable when you're looking at entering dental school to think, well, how much am I going to need to pay for tuition and fees? And how much am I going to need for living expenses and book supplies, transportation, and all of that? But that's just 1 year. Dental school, the majority of the curriculums are clearly 4-year programs. So we're going to encourage you to not just look at what's it going to cost me this first year of dental school. We're going to encourage you to think big picture and look over the entire cost of the 4-year program. Now, that's going to be an estimate at best. I don't know of any dental school that can tell you exactly what the cost is going to be for subsequent years. But an easy way to do it, and guys, this is just nothing more than an example. Let's suppose you're going to a dental school and the total cost of attendance, the financial aid budget, tuition fees, an allowance for room and board expenses, all of that. Let's suppose it's $75,000 that first year. We'll just multiply that times 4 and you get a pretty nasty number of $300,000, but that's at least an estimate of what it's going to cost you out of pocket over the entire 4-year period of time. Your financial aid officer can help you with that. And once again, we just encourage you to think big picture, not just what's it going to cost 1 year, but what's it going to cost over the entire duration of the program. Now, another cost you may not really think about, and this shouldn't derail any of your plans for dental school, but that's what we call an opportunity cost. I would argue that if you didn't go to dental school, you would likely be working somewhere, and who knows what you would be making, maybe let's say $35,000 or $40,000 a year. Let's just use that number. Well, if you didn't go to dental school, that would be 4 years worth of income at that salary level, maybe a little higher, and that's income you've lost. And so when you add that to the 4-year cost of a dental education, you can see the serious nature of financing a dental education and why it's so important to put attention into this. So take a look at the 4-year program, the cost over 4 years, and also consider the opportunity cost. That should not derail your plans for dental school, but we want you to be sure you consider those costs. Now, think about your financial aid officer, and you're going to hear me reference your financial aid office throughout this little module, this little session that we're doing for you, this webinar. The relationship with your financial aid office is going to be very important because one of the critical questions to ask of your school's financial aid office is, do they have any free money for financial aid, grants and scholarships? Now, it's not unusual for grad and professional students to not have access to a lot of free money, but you should ask your school anyway, because remember, any grant and scholarship money you get is money that you're not going to have to borrow, and you don't have to pay grants and scholarships back. So find out about the deadlines, and are the funds, if they have any available, are they based on merit? Are they based on financial need? Are they based on a combination of those things? And is there anything that you need to submit in terms of an institutional application to be sure you're considered for those funds? That's a quick reminder to be sure you get your aid application complete so that as soon as you're accepted, your school can go out with some information for you about what kind of financial aid they have, hopefully including scholarships and grants. Now, speaking of scholarships and grants, don't forget to talk with your financial aid officer about what we call outside scholarships. An outside scholarship is nothing more than a scholarship that the school itself does not administer. It might be, and this is perhaps a crazy example, but I'm from Jefferson County in West Virginia. Who knows, there might be an outside scholarship for someone whose parents or who they are actually from Jefferson County in West Virginia, and the person is willing to give that student money to help pay for their dental school if they're from Jefferson County. Well, talk to your financial aid office. They may actually have a listing of resources of outside scholarships you can apply to. Guys, you have to do that on your own, a lot of that legwork on your own. But don't forget about outside scholarships. One quick comment about the outside scholarships: you should never have to pay for an outside scholarship search. If you go to the Money Matters section of the Go Dental website, you'll see some information on a free scholarship search service. You just should never have to pay to try to get information on outside scholarships. Now, some other questions to go through. Let's suppose that someone in your family, relatives, or somebody has said, you know, we would really like to help you pay for dental school, but there's no way we can pay tuition. Maybe we'll give you a little bit of money along the way. Here's something for you to consider. And once again, your financial aid officer can show you how to actually do this when you apply for your loans. The loans you're going to be taking out, if you do, for dental school, these are called unsubsidized loans. And don't get caught up so much on terminology. That just simply means interest is building up all during dental school. And at some point, that interest, you're going to be responsible for it. And at some point, that interest will be added back to the original amount that you borrowed. And that's called capitalization, and that raises the total amount of your balance. If somebody has offered to help you a little bit along the way, talk with them about possibly paying the interest for you while you were in school. You're not required to pay it. It's allowed to be built up, but it will help you out if someone can help pay that interest during school. That'll help reduce the total amount of repayment later on. Now, also, and this is something that not everybody's interested in, don't forget about service commitment scholarship programs. Hopefully you've heard of the National Health Service Corps, the Indian Health Service, certainly the Armed Forces. These are organizations that have scholarship dollars and will give students scholarships if you make a commitment to work with them after you graduate. National Health Service Corps happens to be extremely competitive, but this is an organization where if you applied and were accepted, they would give you money during school to pay for dental school in exchange for your commitment to go work in a health profession, manpower shortage area later on. Same kind of principle with the military. I call these upfront service commitment programs because these organizations tend to have loan repayment assistance programs after dental school. If you went ahead and borrowed, then you can talk with them about getting help in terms of a service commitment to pay the loans back. But some folks like to just do that service commitment up front and either not borrow at all or borrow much less in terms of loan money. So don't forget about service commitment scholarship programs. Now, another question to ask your financial aid office, and I have no idea whether your school will have a listing of this or not. One of the most important things you can do is talk to other dental students about how they paid for dental school. And so I would argue that once you get to your school, see if the financial aid office has a list of, I don't know, maybe some third or fourth year dental students that you could talk to say, hey, you know, I'm a first year student. Do you mind me asking how you funded your dental education? Maybe there's some things they're doing that you missed. And you might ask them also about how they're planning to repay the student loans, what kind of plans they're looking at, et cetera. But talk to somebody who is in your shoes and has been there and is a current dental student, or maybe even talk to some recent graduates. Your financial aid office may have some students who are currently enrolled who have actually offered to be resources for other students. Sometimes that actually happens at orientation. You may meet some of those folks there. So talk to some other students about paying for dental school. Also talk to other dental students about budgeting. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that in this webinar, but ask yourself, are you currently living on a budget? And if you are you good at that? Because here's what's going to happen if you apply for financial aid at any dental school in the country. There's going to be a monthly living allowance for you, and you're not going to be able to take out financial aid in excess of that amount. So the better you are at budgeting now, the better off you'll be in dental school. And frankly, folks, you may end up not borrowing as much as you think you need because the budget the school gives you, you're able to come in under that budget. Talk to your financial aid office about that. And once again, consider talking to some other dental students about, you know, do they have roommates? You know, do they have an old car? You know, how are they doing that? How are they staying under budget? Remember, everything you don't have to borrow is going to reduce what you have to repay later on. The last thing we'll mention to you is be sure you are taking advantage of the Go Dental site, and specifically in terms of financing a dental education, the Money Matters section of the Go Dental site. There's some information on there regarding the debt levels of all the dental students recently in the class of 2017. There's information on all the scholarships and grants and how to go about applying for those and the importance of relationship with your school. There are actually some repayment scenarios. There's information on the service scholarship programs we talked about. A lot of information for you. And we think that the more time you spend there, that'll actually help you as you start dental school and work with your financial aid office, again, over the 4 years of dental school. So hopefully this information has been beneficial to you. We wish you nothing but the best as you are going through the application process and then as you're figuring out how to pay for dental school.